Great. So, Jeff, thank you. First of all, a big thank you to yourself, to Piers, and the whole PSFK team for the staging of this event in these very challenging times. It did strike me that, if anything, the current challenge we're all experiencing with COVID-19 may actually heighten both consumer and government interest in actually creating and enhancing visibility into supply chains. So I'm delighted today to be joined by my co-host, Mark Kaplan. Mark is a partner at Envisible, which is a sustainable seafood company, and also the creator of the whole chain traceability system. So we plan to spend about the next 15-20 minutes or so giving you details of how blockchain technology can be used to provide visibility into supply chains, both in the food industry and also a little bit more broadly. I'm very aware that the audience there, participants online, come from a variety of different industries and backgrounds. But we believe that the technology has huge applicability to build trust with consumers and with businesses. Now, consumer expectations have shifted. Consumers now want to know the origin, the authenticity, and indeed data about the good or the service that they're buying. This is true whether you're in pharmaceuticals, where you're wondering, is the over-the-counter prescription drug that I bought, is it genuine? Did it come from a reputable company? And are all the active ingredients in that drug, are they all still in date? It's also true if you're in automotive. So is my replacement car part, is it genuine? And will the warranty on my car and the service that I'm being provided by my garage, will that still be valid? It's true in consumer electronics, where you're going, is my fridge or my toaster or my appliance genuine? And is it really an A plus energy rated product? And it's also true in sportswear, fashion, and indeed in high-end luxury items, where you're wondering, is the t-shirt, the pair of shoes, or the handbag that you bought, is it actually genuine? And will the warranty that you were given on that good or on that service be upheld by the manufacturer? And it's particularly true in the context of food. So increasingly, consumers want to know the story behind the food that they're consuming, and indeed the journey to their table. Are these carrots, are they really, really organic? Is that is that salmon, is it wild or is it farmed? Are the ingredients in the baby formula that that I've bought, are they good? Are they valid? Now, this has real commercial value as well, because we increasingly know that consumers are interested in buying local. Indeed, that tops the list of American consumer traits that they look for in a product or service at the moment. So meeting the expectations of these these desires for consumers is actually very, very challenging. The pain point lies in the lack of end-to-end visibility across the ever-expanding supply chain. Now, this presents opportunities for bad actors to introduce counterfeit products or fraudulent products, or even misrepresent products, and this hurts the integrity of brands in the marketplace. Now we know, that this isn't just a problem for consumers. We know that actually there's a real commercial case to be made here. For instance, we know that 65, and this is research that was conducted by McKinsey and NYU Stern. We know that 65% of Gen Z try to learn the origin of a good or a service that they're going to buy. We know that 75% of consumers will actually switch brands to brands that actually provide more product information. And actually, perhaps most startlingly, almost we know that that sustainability marketed products and services grow almost 6 times faster than those that are conventionally marketed. So some significant commercial benefits there. So to solve for this particular set of problems, both more broadly and specifically within the food industry, we were at Mastercard. We were delighted to partner up with Mark and the team in Envisible. Um, and together with them, we developed the Mastercard Provenance solution. So this is a solution that is built on top of Mastercard's own proprietary blockchain technology. It's a solution that's industry agnostic. It helps brands provide visibility into the product journeys and provide a clear record of traceability from the point of origin of a good or a service right up until the point where it's consumed or where it goes over a merchant counter. Now, as many people know, blockchain technology is a distributed ledger technology, and its fundamental principle and its true value is really in building trust by sharing and providing in a very safe way data across distributed supply chains. When you combine that with establishing a digital identity on a physical good or a service, then you can create a solution like Mastercard blockchain, or say like a Mastercard Provenance solution. Now, the transparent flow of information itself is enabled by the trusted properties of the blockchain itself, and the foundation of, and that provides a really, really solid foundation on which to build other things. So, for instance, we're using Internet of Things devices. A distributor can also track the temperature or the length of time that a shipping container or that a good or a service has been in a shipping container and determine whether the food might be contaminated because perhaps the temperature got too hot or the good or the service was in the container for too long. Similarly, we can ensure that goods and services that were weighed in warehouse one and then shipped to warehouse two, that those goods and services measure the same mass weight. And then we can also integrate rules into the technology itself to automate and reduce very costly manual processes like payments and billing and execution and partial payments of invoicing, etc. So I'm going to hand across now to Mark and ask him to talk a little bit about the provenance solution itself and to illustrate how a consumer can discover the journey of the products they buy in the grocery store with our seafood use case, and to bring this to life for you a little bit. Mark.
Sure. Thank you, Ken. And thank you also to Piers and the PSFK team and the team at Mastercard for including me in this presentation. So we created the whole chain traceability system for our seafood supply chain in partnership with Mastercard to link our fishers and our seafood farmers, our processors and our distribution centers and our retailers, and deliver storytelling experiences to consumers. Our users, whole chain functions as an interface on top of the Mastercard Provenance solution, and it enables users to rapidly capture important data on using almost any device. The data is then accumulates as the product change hands across the supply chains. So producers will implement certain data like the source. Our processors will implement certain data like the method of processing the fish, so on and so forth. And then each digital record follows the product from the source all the way to the store. Upon acceptance of each record by the receiver of the product, each transaction is then immutably recorded on the Mastercard Provenance solution. And then ultimately at the point of sale, the consumer is then able to use their iPhone camera or any QR reader to scan a QR code either on pack or in the seafood counter to receive a storytelling experience on their mobile device about the product. So what we really feel is that sustainability is an imperative and it needs to be, we needed to address it today, but buzzwords like sustainable, responsible, and fresh really aren't enough. Consumers have really lost a lot of confidence in the industrial food system around overuse of those buzzwords. And today's consumers are really requiring substance behind those claims as they purchase really in alignment with their personal values. And so we've partnered with Mastercard Topco Associates, which is a large cooperative of regional grocers in the United States, to track the journey of our salmon from the coast of Alaska and 11 other species from 5 other countries, making up our 15 SKU product line of fully traceable, sustainable seafood to full circle market grocers nationally, starting with KVAT Food City. And we've also committed to price transparency across our seafood product line to bring full transparency with traceability in order to reward our stakeholders for improving sustainable practices. So these insights are really powered by the Mastercard Provenance solution, and as Ken mentioned, Envisible and our whole chain traceability system, which enables supply chain visibility, specifically in food systems. And so what it also enables is producers to be able to connect to markets, both nationally and globally. Suppliers are able to connect with their producers, and what we've seen here is a reduction in waste and improvement in quality. Procurement teams have been able to validate claims and using mapping and other tools for planning and analysis of their buying decisions. And ultimately that enables our retailers to confidently communicate authentic stories to their consumers. So I'll walk through the QR code here and discuss how it works. So just with a simple click of a smartphone camera, our shoppers are able to scan our QR codes at seafood counters and in our freezer bags, which will be coming into grocers in a couple of months. And and find out about the journey their seafood takes all the way back to their fishermen. But truly, the technology alone isn't enough to solve for the problem. Key parties in the industry have really needed to understand the imperative and raise the bar for visibility to contribute that information. So it's as much about the commitment to transparency and traceability from the stakeholders across the supply chain, as much as it is about the enabling technologies to facilitate that data sharing. And so together with Mastercard, we've been able to increase sustainability across the supply chains and really bolster trust in our food system. So since then, and since we've been bringing this to market, we have reapplied our technology in partnership with other brands also to their supply chains, ranging from vanilla from Madagascar, fonio from Mali. We're preparing millet in India, amaranth in Mexico, pork, beef, and chicken in the US. And ultimately, we're in the process of scoping 26 other commodities around the world. Thank you.
Fantastic, Mark. Thank you so much for that. So what I'll do is, just for the benefit of those watching, I'll actually share contact details for both myself and Mark, should anyone want to get in contact with us afterwards. The solutions that Mark and I discussed have applicability into a multitude of different industries. The way that we establish identity varies. So the example Mark used there, we used a QR code on packaging of the produce itself, because it's not really possible to put SKU level data into a piece of salmon. But there are a variety of other ways we can establish digital identities on physical things, and then the rest of the solution is entirely industry agnostic. So I've included contact details for both Mark and myself on the screen here. And Jeff, what I'll do now is I'll cut across to see what questions have come in.
So how we approach adoption of these technologies in areas that are more corrupt. Yes, so any system can be gained. And so what we've done with whole chain is we require the first receiver of a solution to accept the record before it's written to the Provenance solution. What that does is it creates a level of accountability between the previous stakeholder in the supply chain and the next receiver. So what that does is they then are required to authenticate that the digital record matches the physical product that they've received. And we also do that so that we're able to capture both incorrect records as much as correct records. When we capture an incorrect record, that enables us to notify that stakeholder for an intervention and determine whether it's just a simple fat finger mistake, which is entirely possible considering that many fishermen have slippery fingers and are in the process of their catch, or it could just be outright fraud. And so that's how we try to tackle fraud in the supply chain. Yeah, so I hope that answers the question.
So there's a second question here. There's a couple of them actually that are linked. So there's one from Jen, another one from Anya, and one from, sorry, let me just scroll up. One from Andrew Glyden, all around the kind of common thread, I think, is kind of why Mastercard, what elements of the solution did we bring to it, and then a question as well around how interoperable the technology is with other things, both the QR scanning methods and others. So let me kind of take those set of questions generically. I think many people misunderstand what Mastercard is. They most directly associate us with the debit or credit card in their wallet, but actually, we are a technology company in operating not even in payments but in commerce. So at our heart, we are a very strong technology-oriented company. I think of more relevance here. We're also a network company. So we're a company that specializes in building networks composed of millions and billions and billions of transactions, where we take tiny percentages on those transactions to operate those networks, and we do it with security, privacy, trust, and certainty in the messaging at its heart. So for us, the ownership of a good or a service typically changes hands at a payment event, whether that's a business-to-business payment event or whether it's a consumer-to-merchant payment event. So this clearly makes sense for us to invest into helping partners solve challenges that are clear adjacencies to payments. We see this as a network business. We don't treat this as a series of consulting assignments. So for us, this is the creation of a whole new network, starting in food with our fantastic partnership with Mark and the team at Envisible, and with his partnership extending that into other areas and then into other industries as well. In terms of interoperability, whilst we embed a lot into the technology itself, so clearly we can embed payments capabilities, recharge capabilities, invoice capabilities, and other data sets, we're also very aware that there may be other chains out there that we need to support as well. So we've deliberately built the solution to be interoperable, and that also includes down to the establishment of the digital identity itself, whether it's a barcode or a token or an RFID or a chip, or depending on the form factor, and also then the method for reading that form factor, whether it's a phone or an infrared scanner in a warehouse, or whatever it might be. Interoperability has been built into this from the start.
Likewise, on our side, Ken, on the whole chain side, what we've done is we've built it neutral to the enterprise technology, understanding that a lot of retailers and other enterprises like consumer brands have existing procurement systems, ERP systems, inventory management. So we've built a whole chain to be able to interoperate and be neutral to that. Whether it's SAP, Microsoft Dynamics, or what have you, to be able to enable simple integration of any supply chain.
Thanks, Mark. Do you want you go for it, Mark? Pick one there, and then I'll work on one in the background.
Sure, man. I'll just take Anja's question here, which is the app. So the QR scanner can work on any QR scanner. There's nothing proprietary that's needed. In iPhone, which is the device I use, it just works right off of the camera and brings up a little button to click, and up pops the traceability experience. And then it works similarly on any Android QR scanner or any other barcode scanner in the market. Let
me take the one, and Mark, please come in on top of me here on the what other sorry, maybe let me take the one around how do fishermen and farmers kind of benefit from the solution itself. So I think there's probably a couple of different things that jump to mind here. One, many of the people operating in these industries, as you extend from seafood into farming, some of them are I wouldn't say financially excluded, but I'd say financially vulnerable, right? They don't necessarily have the credit histories, etc., that people in regular kind of 9 to 5 jobs would have, because their income is a little bit more episodic. It ebbs and flows depending on the the seasons or the tides, as the case may be. So I think part of this, by kind of including them in this way, you start to create digital records that enables, banks and others to kind of engage with these people more appropriately. So I think there's one part of it that's about helping include these people in the kind of financial ecosystem properly. I think the second part of it, though, is it's a fabulous medium to actually create distinction for your product or service. The ability to tell your story, that it's it's a piece of salmon off the coast of Alaska that has gotten to your table or plate within a very small number of days, and here's its journey. It creates that connection between the buyer and the seller in a way, I think, that really differentiates the brand as well, and I think that's incredibly valuable. Mark,
Agreed.
thoughts?
Yes, absolutely. And in our case, when you extend that out to, shrimp farmers in Southeast Asia and some of the more remote, like in Mozambique, where we're sourcing some of our finfish with fair trade. And with fair trade, that's a good example of making sure that there's equitable compensation across the supply chain. And so how we're doing that is, while we're not currently using digital payments, we are building to that in partnership with Mastercard. What we're doing now is we're connecting our purchase orders and our lot numbers along with the traceability records. So what that does is it creates, and this is again back to the reasons why we've committed to price transparency as well, which is to ensure that there's equitable compensation across that supply chain. And actually what we do is it gives the producers direct access to markets. So you can envision down the road where a producer is able to ultimately publish their commodities to the market with full visibility to the end buyers. So then you establish a fully traceable and transparent supply chain.
Perfect. Let me pick another one here. I think we might have time for one or two more. So a couple of rapid fire questions. Does MasterCard have ties to mobile currency platforms in various African states? Yes, we can reach consumers and businesses in about 210 countries around the world. And we will support any fairly regulated payment channels. So that would include the M-Pesas and the different mobile money platforms across Africa and other parts of the world, together with all the domestic and cross-border payment mechanisms from fast ACH through card, etc. Another question here around, are you planning to incorporate QR codes on all of the packaging for the different industries you're onboarding? Mark, I know there's probably an answer for that for food, and then there's probably a slightly broader answer for some of the other kind of type. Do you want to take it for food?
Sure. So within whole chain, what we have is a QR generator that's designed into the system. So any enterprise user is able to log in, and as their records are received, they're able to generate and print out that QR code and apply it to the packaging as they see fit. I'm pretty sure Ken would agree here that it's not really our role to get into everybody's packaging design decisions. But we do enable them to use the technology tools to be able to apply those QR codes as they see fit.
Yep. I think that's right. And then as you extend from food into other industries, QR code tends to be popular even in fashion items, clothing items. You can, depending on the cost of the underlying item, then you can look at chips, RFID. I've even seen washable chips that can be embedded into fabric. So there's a variety of other form factors that can be attached to other products and services services. But the integrity of the overall solution that Mark and I have described remains intact. It's just a different way of establishing digital identity at the point of origin or manufacture. I don't know if we've time for one more, but if we do, how is MasterCard's DLT layer different from other DLT protocols like Corda or Fabric or Sawtooth? I think probably a couple of different things. One, we've built it specifically for the needs of the financial service industry, so it's very safe, it's very secure, it has massive volume that it can carry, and it can also carry pretty large data packages because it has to do that for invoices and payment information. But it's perhaps not so much the DLT where the answer, actually the differentiation lies. It's all the other services that can be brought by both our partners and from MasterCard to it. So payments, obviously, but also recharges, the ability to shut on or shut off merchants, to disable their ability to accept payments if we find them to be fraudulent, the huge amount of artificial intelligence, etc., that we can also bring. So I think that, and fundamentally, our desire to operate as a network business here, rather than somebody who is looking to build their company around, a series of consulting relationships around the establishment of the individual chains themselves. We're in it to be a network business. Okay, there's a variety of questions here, actually, Mark, on coffee into Colombia, a few other similar ones. Maybe let me generalize.
Sure.
So plans for reach into other food items and into other countries. Do you want to maybe talk a
Sure.
little bit about?
Sure. So from our standpoint, and to Ken's point earlier about MasterCard being a network, food supply chains particularly are networks. And MasterCard has relevance across each stage of that network, which is why of all the options in blockchain, we decided to partner with MasterCard because of that. Solutions for small scale producers across the world, relevance at retail, and all of the other benefits that Ken had described earlier. From our standpoint, we've designed whole chain as an interface to be language neutral and commodity neutral. And what we've done is we've designed templates that are drag and drop for key data elements to be able to implement standards for data collection, ranging from fair trade, Marine Stewardship Council, Global Dialogue on Seafood Traceability. We're now implementing the Biodiversity International's Agrobiodiversity Index. So we've really designed this system with MasterCard to be neutral to the region, to the producer type, to be, ranging from Alaskan fishermen to small scale fonio producers in Mali to Madagascar, Southeast Asia, et cetera. So it really is a neutral solution, and we've designed it that way because fundamentally it was a little bit lucky in that seafood has 10,000 species. So we had to do that by nature. And so because of that, and it being the largest traded food commodity in the world, it was already designed for reapplication to so many other commodities.
Fantastic. And I mean, I would echo that. And I would say that, from a MasterCard perspective, our ambitions on this are global. We think that not only is this a really good idea, a really good piece of technology, we think there's a genuine consumer need, and we think there's some great value that we can create for the brands that actually we provide this type of visibility into. So for us, we're all in on this one across the different commodity types, across different products, and globally. Jeff, I think we had to generalize a couple of the questions just to add them together, I think. But kudos to my partner, Mark, there. We did a pretty good job, I think, of getting through most of the questions.